You've taken the masks off your face, but why do you still pretend to be okay inside? From the outside, no one notices. You laugh, you work, you post beautiful phrases, you say everything is fine, but inside, the soul still screams in silence. Rumi said, "The pain you hide is the prison you build." And maybe, you've been locked in this prison for so long, who no longer knows what it would be like to live without him. How many times have you woken up with a tight chest, but decided to wear your most beautiful armor, the one that no one notices? The "I am strong" mask. The "I've already gotten over it" mask. The "I don't need anyone" mask. And deep down, you just wanted to be seen. But he learned to pretend, because when you really cried, no one stayed. Because when you were fragile, they said it was drama, so you hid everything. He swallowed his scream, and he got used to the weight of smiling with wet eyes. But tell me, how long will your soul be able to carry this emotional lie? You talk about healing, but you don't allow yourself to bleed. She talks about spirituality, but lives disconnected from herself. It talks about awakening, but it lives dormant inside a character. Maybe you have broken the masks of the ego, but he created new spiritual masks, more elegant, quieter, but still, masks. You say you're fine, but night comes, and you lie down with emptiness. Look at the ceiling and ask, why does it still hurt? Why, even after so much healing, do I still feel broken? And Rumi whispers, don't look outside for what can only be cured inside, but what to do, when even inside you hid who you really are. That's what this video is going to talk about the sacred lie you created to survive, about the silent pain you learned to disguise with smiles, about the soul that wants to be free, but still hides for fear of being fragile again. You are here for a reason. You clicked on this video because something inside you got tired of being strong, tired of pretending, tired of smiling when what you really wanted was to scream. And do you know why you feel all this? Because there is a part of you that is already awake, a part that he knows that living pretending is not living, that keeping up appearances is suicide of the soul, and that there is no true healing without the courage to look into one's own abyss. Rumi wrote, keep breaking your heart until it opens, but you learn to fix it before your time, gluing the pieces together in a hurry, getting out of the pain before it showed you the truth. You've become an expert at looking good, but inside, the soul still wears mourning. This video is for you who are tired of fooling yourself, for those of you looking for a place where you can undress without fear, for those of you who have already broken many masks, but still hasn't found the true face behind them all. So stay here with me, because maybe, for the first time in a long time, you don't have to pretend. Maybe today, you don't need to understand everything right away. Maybe, you just need to allow yourself to feel, because pretending to be okay is tiring, and this exhaustion you carry is not physical. It is the fatigue of a soul that is always on the alert, always protecting yourself, always hiding. But there is something different about this space. Here, you don't have to pretend. Here, you can let the mask fall. Here, your pain will not be judged. It will be heard. And if, until now, some part of this video has touched what no one sees, if a sentence pierced your inner silence, write in the comments, I'm tired of pretending to be okay. This simple phrase could be your first step out of the invisible prison you've built. She is not weakness, it's courage. It's you saying, I'm here, without masks, for the first time. And if you feel like this content speaks to your soul, if something in you wants to continue this healing journey, leave your like now, not out of obligation, but as a silent seal that you are ready to see yourself for real. Subscribe to the channel, because each video is a mirror, a key, a prayer disguised as words, and the next message may be exactly what your soul has been silently asking for. Are you ready? So take a deep breath, because now we're going to go down deeper and discover why, even after breaking so many masks, you still pretend to be okay. Have you become too strong, to the point where you can no longer call for help? There were so many times when no one noticed your pain, so many situations where you screamed inside and the world went on as if nothing had happened, that you learned to smile on the outside and be silent on the inside. This strength that everyone admires, that serene appearance you maintain, your ability to listen to others, advise, support, help, calm. In fact, it is their most sophisticated prison. Because while everyone sees you as the woman who can handle everything, you forget what it was like to be cared for. You move away from that part of your soul that just wanted a hug, who just needed to be hugged without having to explain anything. But time passed, and you realized that no one would come. So he decided he better look good. The pain that was not welcome turned into silence. The crying that no one heard turned into tiredness. And the tiredness, you disguise it with another busy routine, with another delivery, with another automatic smile. You know that smile you use, just so no one asks how you are. He has already become a part of you. And the worst part is that it works, because nobody asks, nobody notices. No one imagines that behind that woman who inspires strength, there is a soul suffocated by the need to keep everything in order, of holding the world on your shoulders, of never being anyone's problem. But tell me one thing honestly, until when? How long will you be the woman who helps everyone, but has nowhere to go when the pain hits hard? How long will you carry this idea that asking for help is weakness? How long will you believe that you always need to be well to be loved? You have been rejected, you were left behind, you've already been traded. I've already felt that your presence was a burden, that your pain was bothersome. And now, even unconsciously, you have become the one who never bothers, who never cries in front of others, who smiles until he bleeds inside. But the soul, it is not mistaken. She knows you're tired. She knows that this strength is just the armor of a child who grew up having to protect herself alone. She knows there is pain inside, that you try to forget by keeping busy, giving yourself, keeping quiet. Rumi said that the place where you try to hide your pain is precisely the place from which it commands you the most. And maybe that's why, even after so much self-knowledge, of so many readings, so many rituals, so many therapies, so many cycles, you still feel that hole inside your chest, because you're not bad, but it's not okay either. It's working. It is surviving. And there is a difference between living and functioning. You were not born to be the woman who erases herself in the name of peace. You didn't come into this world to be strong all the time. You no longer need to prove your worth through your resistance. And maybe no one has ever told you that. Maybe everyone has gotten used to your strength with your "I'm fine," with your firm presence, with its ability to recover quickly. But the truth is that this is not strength. This is emotional conditioning. It's trauma disguised as competence. It is pain stifled in the name of acceptance. You don't know how to ask for help anymore, because every time she asked, she was ignored. Because you learned that being vulnerable is dangerous. And that's why she became this iron woman. This woman who solves everything but no longer knows how to cry in anyone's arms. And crying is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of life. It is a sign that the soul still beats, that something inside you is still trying to emerge, even after everything you kept quiet about. You know that lump in your throat that appears out of nowhere, that inexplicable desire to disappear for a few days, that weight in your chest that comes just when you should be happy? It's not drama. It's not a whim. It's your soul asking for attention. It's your pain begging to be felt before it makes your body sick. It's your silence wanting to be heard without judgment, without advice beyond repair. You don't have to be okay all the time. You need to be truthful. You need to find a space where you can simply exist, without the obligation to appear whole when it is in pieces. And maybe this video is that space, a place where masks fall, and what remains is only the truth. You are tired. You've been fighting for too long. You need to stop. You need to allow yourself to be seen, even when you're not strong. Because your strength doesn't lie in appearing unshakable. It's about having the courage to show yourself as real. If this excerpt spoke to you, if at any time you felt described, touched, exposed, write here in the comments, "Being strong has tired me." This sentence may not change the world, but it could be your first gesture of freedom, a way to warn yourself. From now on, I choose to be whole, not perfect. You're not pretending out of pride. You're pretending because you learned the hard way that no one hears your cry. Pretending has become a survival mechanism, not because you wanted to deceive anyone, but because the truth, when it was revealed, found no welcome, no embrace. It found silence, judgment, abandonment. You closed yourself off, not because you wanted to. You closed yourself off because showing yourself hurt more than hiding. Every time you tried to reveal yourself, someone turned their face away. Every time you were transparent, someone made you feel overdone. Every time you were intense, someone made you seem needy. And so, from pain to pain, you kept hiding from yourself, hiding your soul behind a calm appearance, hiding your screams behind soft speech, hiding the abyss behind a poised performance. But the soul, it never pretends for long not to get sick. It waits. It endures. But one day, it begins to implode. And when it implodes, not even you understand why you're crying at the sound of some random song, why you feel like disappearing even though everything is in order, why you wake up feeling like everything is wrong, even though the world tells you everything is fine. Rumi wrote, "You were made to be seen, not to hide and disappear. But you disappeared. You disappeared into an existence that only functions but doesn't flourish. You disappeared into a routine that consumes you but doesn't fulfill you. You disappeared into relationships where you give everything, but no one sees who you truly are. You've become an expert at being present, without really being noticed. You're there all the time, available, understanding, faithful, but invisible. Not because you're small, but because you learned to make yourself small to be accepted. And that's ancestral. It didn't start now. This invisibility wasn't born with this current pain. It comes from before, from a childhood where you weren't validated, weren't heard, weren't embraced as you needed. It comes from an inherited silence, from women in your lineage who also learned to be silent, to serve, to endure. You carry pain that isn't just yours, fears that were passed down as an emotional inheritance, traumas that were normalized as strength. You pretend to be okay because a part of you believes that if you're too honest, too intense, too genuine, you'll be rejected again. And maybe you are. Maybe those who only loved your edited version never deserved to know your whole soul. But what you need to understand, truly, is that you can no longer build healing on pretense. You can no longer seek spiritual awakening while the foundation is still shame for who you are. There's a very specific pain that only those who have experienced invisibility understand. Being the person who's always there for others, but never has a place to fall apart. You hold everyone together. You're a safe haven for so many. But where is yours? And the cruelest thing is that often people even see you, but they don't see you. They see your function, your usefulness, your convenient presence, but not your soul. And this slowly kills you, because you feel it. No one notices when you disappear, when you become silent, when you fade away. No one notices when the sparkle in your eyes begins to fade, and you stop noticing too, because you've grown accustomed to your own absence. But the soul, no matter how much it tries to become stone, wasn't born for that. It was born to expand, to be felt, to be expressed. It needs to be seen. It needs to be named. It needs to be heard, even when what it carries is confusing, contradictory, frightening. You're pretending everything's okay, because you've been conditioned to believe that being too authentic drives people away, that showing your wounds scares them away. That crying is shameful, that suffering is weakness, and that's become your truth. But it's not. Rumi said, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens, but you learn to glue your heart shut before it's time, to mask the pain with strength, to fill the hole with silence. And this prevents you from accessing the root, because the root isn't in what you feel today. It's in what you learned not to feel long ago. It's in the words you never said, in the tears you never let fall, in the no's you swallowed, in the limits you never imposed, in the versions you staged to feel loved. Your pain isn't yours alone. It comes from a system that taught you that a real woman is a woman who endures, that spirituality is elevation without vulnerability, that awakening is transcendence, not immersion. But it's not like that. True spirituality begins when you stop hiding behind lights and start facing your shadow. And perhaps your greatest shadow is this: not knowing who you are when no one is looking, not knowing what it would be like if you stopped pretending you're okay, not being able to access your truth without apologizing for it. You don't have to always be understanding, always calm, always lucid, always at peace. Your soul also has screams. It also has storms. It also has memories that hurt. And there is no true elevation without navigating this chaos with honesty. It takes courage to face the root, because it's not in the other person. It's in you. It's in your story. It's in the layers you've built to avoid feeling. It's in the parts of yourself you've locked away for fear of not being loved. But every part of the soul, when viewed with love, begins to blossom. If this video is touching you, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it gives you a lump in your throat or a strange urge to cry, it's a sign that your roots are responding, that something inside you is finally being heard. And you can start this movement now. Write in the comments if you dare, "I'm tired of hiding." This sentence written by you could be the beginning of a path where the soul finally stops pretending to be stone and begins to become a soul again. You've shattered the masks, but you've rebuilt others, quieter ones. Maybe you didn't even realize it. Maybe you thought it was part of the process, a natural transition. But the uncomfortable truth is that we often think we're healing, when in reality we're just adapting to a new way of hiding the pain. You say you've overcome, that you've forgiven, that you've let go, that you've risen above. He says he understands everything now, that it was necessary, that he learned. And maybe all of this is true, in part, but in the silence of the night, in the darkness of the soul, there is still a grip. There is still something unresolved, something that still makes you look inside and ask yourself, if I'm so well, why does it still hurt sometimes? This is the illusion of premature healing. It's when you, wanting to get out of the pain quickly, create a shortcut, a quick path to peace, a false bridge that says, it's over, but it didn't pass. It was just pushed into the unconscious, it was just made up with spirituality. You started using pretty phrases as armor. He started talking about acceptance, gratitude, purpose, but deep down, there's still anger, there's still hurt, there's still fear. And the most dangerous thing, you started to punish yourself for still feeling all of this, because by now you should know. You've read so much, you've heard so much, you've studied so much. You already understood everything rationally. But the soul does not heal through the mind. She heals through feeling, through surrender, through raw vulnerability. And that's scary, because truly feeling is dangerous. It means losing control. It means falling off the pedestal of wisdom and facing the wounded child that still lives within you. And that child is there, observing all your words of evolution, but still waiting for a hug, still waiting for you to stop running from her pain. Because that's exactly what you were taught to do. Run from the pain. Replace pain with positivity. Exchange mourning for strength. Drown out anger with mantras. Silence the scream with meditation. And yes, all of this has value, but it cannot be used as a hiding place. It cannot be used as yet another form of control, because what is not felt remains there. You can paint your wound with the most beautiful colors of spirituality, but it will still be open if you don't have the courage to touch it with presence. There's a part of you that's still trying to pretend it doesn't hurt anymore, but it hurts. It hurts when you see someone repeating the same pattern that hurt you. It hurts when you listen to a song and feel that lump in your chest. It hurts when someone says they understand you, but they don't. It hurts when you find yourself again trying to please, trying to be accepted, trying to be perfect. You didn't free yourself. He just changed prisons. Now, instead of being stuck in external expectations, you are trapped in the internal obligation to be healed, and there is no prison more cruel than one that has the appearance of freedom. Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you, but for the light to enter, the wound needs to be open, not suffocated, not muffled, not ignored with pretty words. You don't have to say you've forgiven if you still feel pain. You don't need to say you accepted it if there is still anger. You don't need to say you've moved on if you're still stuck in the memories. You need to be honest with your soul. And this is much more sacred than any talk of evolution. Real healing is silent. It's raw, it's uncomfortable, and almost no one talks about it because it's not pretty. It's not Instagrammable. It's not elevated. It's human. No, and truth. You may have become a reference of strength, maturity, and spirituality, but this comes at a high price. Not being able to fall apart anymore. No longer being able to say, I don't know yet. I still haven't gotten over it. I'm still trying. I'm still lost. And that's okay. You don't have to be the final version of yourself. Not now. Not yet. Maybe never. Because the soul is not a project of perfection. It is a field of constant movement, where everything that is felt with truth becomes wisdom, but what is ignored becomes a shadow. And your shadow is there, worked, made up, dressed in spirituality, but still injured. You say you are at peace, but your body still reacts. Your mind still repeats. Your energy still gives it away, because real peace does not come from understanding. It comes from delivery, and surrendering is admitting that it still hurts. It's stop running. It's time to stop pretending. It's about stopping building new characters to protect yourself. Do you want to heal? So allow yourself to be fragile, because it is in fragility that true strength lies. The strength that doesn't need to prove anything. The strength that doesn't need to hide behind phrases. The strength that isn't afraid to say, I'm still broken, but I'm here. And perhaps this is the greatest spiritual act you can do right now. Stop trying to look good, and just be who you are. Because the soul only heals in the field of truth. And your truth, however painful it may be, is the only way back to yourself. If at any point in this video you felt the pain of recognizing yourself, the shame of not having overcome it yet, the weight of pretending to be cured, write in the comments, my healing is still in process. This sentence may be your most honest release, and maybe that's exactly what your soul needed most today. Be reminded that there is still time to stop pretending. True healing doesn't come from appearing well. It comes from allowing yourself to break where it still hurts. And maybe no one has told you this directly. Maybe everyone around you has taught you that the most important thing is to get up quickly, move on, show that everything is resolved, that you've turned things around. But that's not healing. That's defense. It's an unconscious reflection of unaccepted pain. An attempt to prove to the world and to yourself that you are stronger than any suffering. But what if real strength isn't in appearing invincible? What if it's in allowing yourself to be exactly as you are now, without rushing to get better, without the obligation to be cured, without the burden of maintaining an image of balance that, deep down, no longer represents you? Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you, but only if you stop hiding the wound, only if you allow it to exist, only if you stop treating it as a mistake, as a shame, as a burden, because the pain isn't the problem. The problem is how much you try to disguise it, hide it, ignore it, as if feeling were wrong, as if breaking were failure, as if showing yourself fragile were synonymous with defeat. But fragility is a portal to the sacred that exists within you. It's the moment you lay down your weapons, dismantle your characters, and surrender to what you feel, unfiltered, unscripted, uncontrolled, that something new begins to emerge. Not an idealized new version, but the most honest version of yourself. One that doesn't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. One that doesn't need to appear healed to deserve acceptance. You may be at that exact point right now. The point where you realize you can't pretend anymore. You can't put another layer on top of the pain anymore. You can't go on with your life as if what's inside isn't consuming you. And it's okay if you don't know how to deal with it yet. It's okay if you're still confused. It's okay if you feel scared, ashamed, tired. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to have the courage to not run away from yourself. Because there's a rare beauty in those who decide to stop hiding. In those who choose to look into their own soul and say, I see you even when no one else does. This choice, this silent decision to stop running, is where true alchemy begins. It's where pain stops being just pain and becomes a path. It's where the void begins to echo answers. It's where what seemed like ruin begins to blossom as wisdom. But to do so, you need to stop rushing. Stop trying to control the process. Stop demanding immediate healing from yourself. The soul doesn't work with urgency. The soul works with depth, and depth requires time, surrender, and presence. You need to allow yourself to dive into where it still hurts, not to lose yourself, but to find yourself, because what you avoid most is often precisely what holds the key to your liberation. This key isn't in the pretty words you repeat. It's not in the books you've read, nor in the advice you give others. It's in that sensitive spot you avoid touching. It's in the tears you swallow. It's in the memories you try to erase. It's in that uncomfortable feeling that arises when you're alone. It's in the fear of being seen completely and yet not being loved. And it's precisely there, in that exact place, that the possibility of healing resides. You need to understand that the soul doesn't want you to be perfect. It wants you to be real. Spirituality doesn't require you to remain in a state of peace all the time. It invites you to inhabit chaos with awareness, to gaze into your own abyss with tenderness, to allow yourself to break, not to destroy yourself but to open space. Because every rupture, when accepted with presence, transforms into rebirth. You're tired of pretending. You're tired of appearing okay. You're tired of carrying the expectation that you need to be the resolved, enlightened, balanced woman. But you're not a concept. You're a being in constant transformation. And true growth only exists when you have the courage to embrace your own vulnerability. When you stop using spirituality as a disguise and start using it as a grounding, as support, as a path back to yourself. Pain is not the end. Pain is the initiation. It invites you to look within, to revisit your roots, to touch your shadows with compassion, to let go of preconceived truths and find your own truth, the one that lives within your body, within your memories, within what still pulses. And this truth may not be pretty, it may not be comfortable, but it is yours, and only it can set you free. When you allow yourself to break where it still hurts, something magical happens. You stop fighting the pain and start listening to it. You stop resisting it and start breathing into it. And that's when the light enters, not like an explosion, but like a breath, a presence, a welcoming silence, a space where you finally no longer need to defend yourself. If you're in that place right now, at that turning point in that space between pain and light, write in the comments, "I'm ready to break myself for real." This phrase isn't a sign of weakness. It's a pact with your soul, a silent commitment to the healing you deserve. And maybe this is the moment your story begins to change. Maybe you're like that woman everyone admires, but no one really knows. The one who always has the right word to say, always available, always ready to help, to listen, to welcome. The one who seems strong, clear-headed, centered. The one who inspires other women. The one who seems to have resolved all her pain. But inside, she's exhausted, full, silently empty. She listens to everyone, but who listens to her? She is seen, yes, but she is seen superficially. They see her appearance, her strength, her presence, her smile. But no one sees when she lays her head on the pillow and feels that, even surrounded by people, she is alone. No one sees when she holds back tears because she's afraid of breaking down and not being able to come back. No one sees when she wakes in the middle of the night with her heart racing, not knowing exactly what's hurting, only feeling a tightness that can't be named. She helps everyone, but she no longer knows how to ask for help, because people already expect stability from her, clarity, light. And how can someone who has become a beacon of strength say she can't handle it? How can she find the space to say she no longer wants to be the rock, the foundation, the foundation? She doesn't find it, so she shuts up. She pretends. She lives. She works. She smiles. She gets ready. She does what she has to do. But inside, she feels like she's imploding, like she's about to fall apart. And the worst part is, she doesn't even know how she started feeling this way. You just know she no longer feels the same glow she used to, that nothing touches her like it used to, that she's been living on a kind of autopilot disguised as balance. Maybe you're that woman. Maybe you're there, on the other side of the screen, feeling like I just described something you've never had the courage to say out loud. Maybe you've bottled it all up for so long that you don't even know where you left your own pain. And what's left is just this strange feeling of being tired all the time. Not in body, but in soul. She's tried everything. She's been to therapy. She's read books. She's meditated. She's gone on retreats. She's tried to understand. She's tried to forgive. She's tried to love herself. She's tried to be light. She's tried to be spiritual. She's tried to transcend. But inside, something still throbs. A small, constant, persistent ache. A memory that won't go away. A feeling of not belonging anywhere. Of not being truly known by anyone. And then she pretends everything's okay, pretends it's just a phase, pretends it will pass, but deep down she knows. It's not just a phase, it's an accumulation of silences, of absences, of swallowed words, of ignored feelings. And this accumulation has become a weight she carries every day without telling anyone. She even thinks about venting, but every time she tries she feels bad, as if she's complaining too much, as if her pain isn't valid, as if she's being ungrateful for everything she has, because there are people in worse situations, because she's healthy, because she has a job, because she has a place to live. So she invalidates her own pain. She silences her own feelings, and goes back to being the one who listens to others. But what she needs, What you might need isn't comparison. It's not relativizing what she feels. It's a space where she can exist fully, where she can take off her armor without fear, where she can be fragile without guilt, where she can be cared for without having to earn it through performance. Maybe you've never had that space. Maybe no one has ever really asked you, "How are you?" Really. Maybe it's always been easier to play a role, to be the strong daughter, the impeccable professional, the supportive friend, the reliable partner. But who are you behind all of this? This woman who cries alone, who wakes up with a heavy heart, who feels invisible even when surrounded by people. She doesn't need any more advice. She needs permission. Permission to listen to herself, to embrace herself, to stop constantly demanding healing. She needs to understand that she doesn't need to be available all the time, that she doesn't need to handle everything, that she doesn't need to be the ideal version of herself that was invented for her. The pain she feels isn't a whim, it's a memory, it's an accumulation. It's the reflection of everything she's had to swallow to maintain the image that everything is fine. But her soul can't take it anymore. She doesn't want to pretend anymore. She wants to be seen, she wants to be heard. She wants to be truly embraced. And above all, she wants to be able to listen to herself again, without fear of what she'll find. And that's where the transformation begins. Not when she understands everything, but when she begins to feel what she's been trying to avoid for years. When she cries without apology, when she shouts what she kept silent, when she stops comparing herself, when she finds herself in her own silence. Maybe you need this now too. Stop being the woman who handles everything, and start being the one who allows herself to feel everything, the one who lets go of what's heavy, the one who retreats when necessary, the one who chooses herself without guilt, the one who understands that fragility is a portal, not a problem. If you felt that this woman is me, it could be your own voice in disguise. If something inside you vibrated with identification, write here in the comments. I also cry alone. This phrase may seem simple, but it carries a universe, a request, an acknowledgement, and sometimes that's all your soul needs to start feeling alive again. You don't have to be strong all the time. You have to be true, and maybe that's the turning point your soul is trying to offer you right now. After so long hiding what you feel, holding on to what you can't handle anymore, trying to control what's already overflowing, maybe now is the time to stop. Stop pretending. Stop holding on to the version of yourself you've built to survive, because that's all it's been, survival. But your soul doesn't want to survive anymore. It wants to live, to breathe, to feel again, to truly be present. You've spent so much time trying to be strong, trying not to fall, trying to pull yourself together quickly, trying to appear at peace, trying to please, trying to prove you're okay, trying to keep everything under control, that you've forgotten what it means to simply be, to be who you are, with everything you feel, with everything you carry, with everything you're still trying to understand. And that, this permission to simply be, is what begins true awakening. Pretending to be okay isn't wisdom, it's defense. And as much as it may seem like maturity, as much as it may seem like spirituality, deep down it's fear. Fear of showing yourself, fear of undressing, fear of revealing that it still hurts, fear of being rejected in its rawest form. Because it's easier to appear okay, it's safer to maintain the mask of overcoming. But the soul knows. The soul always knows when you're lying to yourself, and it gives you signs. Small at first, almost imperceptible, then stronger, then unbearable, until the moment comes when you simply can't sustain the illusion anymore. That moment could be happening right now. You're here, listening to words that might describe what you felt, but couldn't name, feeling things that had been hidden for so long that seemed to have disappeared. But they didn't. They were just pushed aside, and now they're coming back, not to punish you, but to remind you of what needs to be seen, felt, integrated, healed. Rumi said, "Don't settle for other people's stories. Live your own legend." But how can you live your own legend if you're still trapped in the character they created for you? How can you live authentically if you're still trying to meet expectations that aren't even yours? How can you feel peace if you're still constantly molding yourself to be accepted? This shift in consciousness isn't a grand event. It's a silent decision, a surrender, a moment when you say, enough. No more hiding, no more silencing. No more demanding of me what I can no longer bear. No more abandoning myself to be accepted. No more betraying my soul in the name of an image that no longer represents me. You don't need this anymore. You don't need to pretend you don't feel it anymore. You don't need to hold on when everything inside you is about to fall apart. You can fall. You can break. You can stop. Because sometimes, it's only when everything falls apart that the truth emerges. It's only when you let go of the strength that real strength emerges. The strength of presence. The strength of authenticity. The strength of someone who no longer wants to live an edited life. This shift requires courage, and above all, compassion. Because when you decide to stop pretending, you'll rediscover parts of yourself that have been hidden for years. You'll look into the eyes of the girl who cried and no one listened. You'll feel the pain frozen in time. You'll revisit memories that still hurt, and all of this may seem overwhelming. But it's precisely this deep dive that brings you back to yourself, that reconnects you with your own truth. You'll realize you don't have to heal from everything right now. You don't have to handle everything alone. You don't have to live in this constant state of alert anymore. You can be vulnerable. You can ask for help. You can retreat when you're tired. You can simply be. Be without having to appear to be anything. This is the soul that no longer pretends. It's the soul that frees itself from the obligation to be perfect, that abandons the idea that it must always be perfect, that understands that feeling is part of the journey, that understands that falling is part of the journey, that understands that true spirituality isn't about constant elevation, it's about radical presence. Presence with yourself, with everything you feel, with everything you are. You'll realize that the light you've been searching for outside is there, in the darkness you've been avoiding, that the answer you've been searching for lies in the silence you didn't want to hear, that the welcome you've been missing begins when you decide to never abandon yourself again, and that changes everything, because from that moment on, you no longer live for survival. You live for truth, for presence, for choice. You no longer need to wait for recognition to recognize yourself. You no longer need someone to see your pain to validate it. You no longer need someone to listen to you to express yourself. You can be your own listening, your own validation, your own new beginning. And maybe that's the greatest freedom of all. If you feel like you've reached this point, if this turning point is starting within you, write in the comments, "Enough surviving, I choose to live." Let this phrase be a silent pact with your soul, a seed of presence, a reminder that you no longer need to pretend. The truth is enough. Today you can do something different. Stop acting and start feeling. Stop following the script of the woman who is always fine. Stop smiling automatically. Stop responding everything's fine when everything is falling apart inside. Stop supporting the role of the balanced, the strong, the spiritual one who doesn't get shaken, doesn't get bothered, doesn't feel anger, doesn't feel fear, never breaks. Because no matter how accustomed you are to this emotional performance, it no longer protects you. She is no longer useful. It weighs. She holds. And you feel it, even when you try to deny it, even when you try to convince yourself that it's just a phase, that it's no big deal, that you need to be grateful, that other people suffer more, that your pain isn't that important. But it is. And yes, your pain is important because it is real. Your pain matters because it exists. And it will only start to transform when you stop denying it, when you stop silencing what screams inside, when you stop using spirituality as a patch and start using it as a dive into the truth, into the soul, into what pulses even when no one sees. You no longer need to continue with this self-control performance, this need to appear unshakable, as if nothing could affect you, as if everything was always under the control of your consciousness, your evolution, your maturity. This emotional rigidity is not wisdom. It's prison. It's defense. It is the echo of a wounded child who, having been disregarded so many times, learned to remain silent so as not to disturb. And today, that child is still there, waiting for you to stop acting her out and finally start listening to her. Silent healing begins when you say, "I'm not okay, but I'm here," without trying to justify, without trying to minimize, without needing to fix yourself, just being present, with whatever comes, with everything you spent your life trying to control, tame, hide. Maybe you've learned that showing weakness is dangerous. that feeling too much makes you weak, that showing emotional fatigue pushes people away. And so, he created characters to protect himself. Strong characters, wise characters, spiritual characters, characters who know what to say, who welcome others, who have answers. But what about you? Who embraces their own truth? Who listens to your silences? Who sees how much you blame yourself for still feeling what you shouldn't feel anymore? Because you already know so much. You already understand patterns, you already recognize your triggers, you've studied childhood trauma, spirituality, self-knowledge, but it still hurts. There is still a void. There is still an anguish that haunts you in the middle of the night, a loneliness that appears even when surrounded by people, a tiredness that no break seems to cure, and that doesn't make you any less wise. That makes you human, and humanity is not something to be avoided on the spiritual path. This is the starting point. It is where the soul finds itself without the filters of perfection, without rituals as a disguise, without the pretty phrases as an escape, without the need to appear ready, cured, resolved. Is there anything more spiritual than saying, I accept myself as I am, even now, even in pain, even without knowing what to do? Is there anything more divine than the courage to inhabit the present moment truthfully, without filter, without performance? True healing does not come to those who pretend to be well. It comes to those who surrender, for those who admit what they feel, for those who stop looking outside for what can only be recognized within. You've spent so much time trying to control your emotions, trying to keep them in a space of rational understanding, that you've become detached from your body, of feeling, from the crying that needs to come out, of anger that needs to be recognized, of the fear that needs to be embraced. And now it's here, hearing this, feeling like maybe you never allowed yourself to completely fall apart. Maybe I've always stopped halfway, always try to get back on track before the pain really hits you. But today, maybe it's your day to allow it. Allow what is suffocated to find air. Allow the part of you that still bleeds to be touched gently. Allow you to cry without explanation. May you feel without guilt. Express yourself without fear of losing anyone. Because those who don't know how to deal with their truth don't deserve to walk with their soul. And this is what you need to understand. You don't need an audience for your healing. Needs presence, your own, with you, with what hurts, with what makes you real, with what reconnects you with your wholeness even in the pieces. Emotional performance was a survival resource, but now you are alive. Now your soul wants to live. No more pretending, no longer appear, no longer pleasing, but to be. Be with truth, being with imperfection, to be with tears, being with loose laughter, being with pain and with peace, with shadow and with light. Because spirituality is not about erasing the human, it is to honor him. It's about going through the layers of lies you've learned to wear and finally reaching what's true. And that only happens when you decide. Decide to stop. Decide to feel. Decide to live your truth, even if it hurts, even if it's uncomfortable, even if no one understands. If this decision is being born within you, even if timidly, even if silently, write in the comments, "Today, I choose to feel." This phrase is the end of the performance. It is the beginning of real healing. It's the space where your soul can finally breathe. You've broken the masks. Now allow your truth to breathe. Allow what you've silenced for so long to find air. Allow your soul, the one you've hidden for fear of appearing weak, for fear of being judged, for fear of being rejected, to find a safe space to simply exist. You no longer need to pretend to be whole when you're in pieces. You no longer need to maintain a performance of balance when inside everything is in motion, everything is screaming, everything is begging to be seen. You've gone through so many phases. You've played so many characters. You've played so many versions of yourself that perhaps now you look in the mirror and don't even know who you are anymore. And that's okay, because perhaps this is precisely the beginning of your return, a return to your essence, to your naked soul, without the emotional makeup you've learned to use to protect yourself, without the behavioral filters you were taught to maintain, without the need for approval that shaped you for years. This is your soul, without masks. And when the soul begins to breathe after so long trapped, suffocated, ignored, it hurts. It hurts because the oxygen of truth enters the wounds that were too closed to feel. It hurts because the silence is now shattered. Because the structure you supported begins to crumble. But don't be alarmed. What's crumbling is the emotional lie. What's breaking is the shell, not the essence. What's hurting is cleansing. It's opening. It's allowing something new to begin to blossom. Let the soul bleed. Only then will it learn to flourish. Because there is no rebirth without going through pain. There is no light without going through the shadows. And there is no truth without shedding the layers that have separated you from yourself. You no longer need to apologize for being sensitive, for being intense, for feeling too much, for crying over things others consider small, for being touched by words, for being moved by what seems simple. Your sensitivity is your strength. Your intensity is your channel to the sacred. Your emotion is your spirituality in motion. And no matter how much the world told you this was exaggeration, drama, weakness, now you can choose to listen to another voice. Your own. The voice of your soul, whispering in the midst of chaos. You can be who you are, without fear. You can feel everything without guilt. You can show yourself even trembling. You can fail, start over, change your mind, lose yourself, and find yourself again. It's all part of the soul's dance. And maybe now, you're feeling something new, a mix of relief and fear, a desire to move forward but still clinging to the old versions that gave you identity. It's normal, because even familiar pain brings a kind of security. Even old suffering gives a sense of control. And now, without masks, without characters, without a script, it's as if you're standing in front of yourself for the first time, without excuses, without lies, without justifications. But it's in this place that the miracle happens. Not a magical, instantaneous, special effect miracle, but the silent miracle of presence, of permission, of taking a deep breath and, for the first time, not running away from yourself. The miracle of looking within and saying, I'm not okay, but I'm here, and that's enough. Because being here, now, with everything you feel, is already beginning the healing. It's already the silent rebirth your soul has long awaited. It's already you returning to existence in full, not just in selected parts. It's already you ceasing to live fragmented, edited, censored. It's already you allowing yourself to be whole, even if you're broken. Because being whole isn't about being perfect. It's about being true. And maybe no one has ever said it to you quite like this in these words, but you can rebuild yourself without rushing. You can feel pain without shame. You can take your time to find yourself again. Because the soul's process isn't measured in goals. It's felt in layers. And now perhaps you're going through one of those layers. A deep layer. An ancient layer. A layer of you that's always been there, hidden beneath 1,000 voices telling you what you should be. But now it wants to surface. It wants to breathe. It wants to be named. And most of all, it wants to be loved as it is, without spiritual makeup, without catchphrases, without rushing. You no longer need a plan. You need space. Space to not know. Space to feel. Space to not demand anything of yourself. Space to just be. To be with pain. To be with doubt. To be with fatigue. To be with beauty. To be with soul. You're undressing. And that's beautiful. That's sacred. That's more spiritual than anything else you've ever tried to be. Because the soul doesn't seek perfection. It seeks presence. It seeks truth. It seeks connection with that which pulses, even if it pulses weakly, even if it pulses wounded. And if you've made it this far, if you've heard everything so far, if you've felt every word as if it were inside your skin, then maybe it's time to give this stage a name that represents this moment in your journey, a symbolic gesture that you understand, that even though you're afraid, you're ready to continue. No masks, no performance, no pretense. Write in the comments, I let my soul breathe. This phrase is a pact with your truth. It's the sound of your emotional breathing beginning to find rhythm. And maybe, just maybe, this is the sound your soul has been waiting to hear for so long. If you've made it this far, it's because your soul was truly ready to hear all of this. And perhaps, at some point in this video, you felt something open inside you, a different silence, a lump in your throat, or even a desire to finally stop pretending. That's no small feat. That's courage. It is presence. It is the beginning of a new way of existing. Sand, you felt that this video spoke to you, not just your mind, but your essence. Then, if subscribe to the channel, because this journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning. With each new video, Rumi will guide you along another step of the path back to yourself. More poetry, more silence, more truth. Leave yours like a seal, a sign that you've reached the end, and that something inside you has changed, even if silently. And now, if you want to take the next step on this journey, the next video is appearing here on the screen. He is the continuation of the conversation your soul began today. You are not alone. Cross with me.